Hi guys, it's Ashley and you're watching Remarkable Mondays Live and you're also watching The Social Life. So I wanted to come on today and really I wanted to catch up with you guys because I feel like it's been a while. But also I wanted to answer a question from Jessica Rooker and I thought it was actually an excellent question. Jessica, you're right, there are no stupid questions. And so I'm proud of you for asking anyway because this is kind of a big deal. So if you're starting a nonprofit or you're thinking about starting a nonprofit, one of the questions that comes up quite often is, are board titles required? And if so, are all of them required? Do they have to be individual? Do they have to be specific to one board member or one board director? And today I'm going to be answering some of those questions for you, just so you can get a good idea of how you should be setting up your board and the types of positions you should be thinking of. Also taking into account the types of skills and things that you want to have for the types of people that are going to be on your board. So let's unpack this a little bit. The first question is all about, do you actually need to have board titles? And the answer is yes. Now, every single person on your board does not have to have a title. And that's the difference between a board of directors or sometimes you'll hear people call them officers. Now, if you have directors, that's pretty much anyone on any of your boards. They are just a director of the board. And so they can give input, they can vote, things like that. If they are an officer, though, they are someone who actually has a title. So they would be the chairman of the board, the president, or the secretary, or the treasurer, or some other title that you have designated for your board of directors. So that's the difference really between directors and officers that you kind of need to know, because you are eventually going to have both on your board. Now, as far as are board titles required? Absolutely. Now, the ones that are required, as far as, I will say this, as far as California law goes, and you may want to check with your state to see if you actually have to have, if you're legally required to have board titles. But I'm going to err on the side of yes, you probably are going to need these because, again, like I always talk about boards, it's a fiduciary requirement for you to have board members, and what they are overseeing is your financials. And so that's really the most important piece of a board, which is why I talk about not having working boards and all of that. So I won't get into all of that today, but basically, you need someone who is going to have fiduciary responsibility of the nonprofit so that you don't have to depend on just yourself to do the right thing with the funding. There are a lot of other people who are overseeing how the money is being used because these are donor dollars and you want to make sure that you're using them correctly. So the first titles that the main titles that you're going to need are a president or a chairman. And the difference is a president is kind of elected to that position or placed in that position. And the chairman of the board can be the CEO, which would be the founder of the organization. So if you are the founder, you can also be the president. And you can, or the chairman of the board. I'm sorry about that. Or you can actually assign a chairman of the board or call them a president. So if you are the CEO, you don't have to be, like I wouldn't say I'm the CEO and president. You would just have that role on your board as chairman of the board. So if ever there were something on your website that says, founder and CEO, then maybe underneath it you would also write chairman of the board if you are the chairman of the board. The thing that I like about chairman of the board and president and having one of those titles is that if you are say I started out as the chairman of my board when we first started the organization, but as we grew and as time went on, that position then switched over to another director, a board of director that was already on my board. And that position can change if necessary, or if that person no longer wants to be chairman of the board, or you have a term for that chairman. Maybe you change it every time the terms change. So you can decide how you want those to be in place or be placed in your board. But for the most part, you are going to have a chairman of the board or a president, not both. So I just want to make that clear. And if you're going to call yourself the chairman of the board, you would call yourself, as the founder and CEO, you would call yourself the chairman, not the president. So I thought that was a pretty interesting detail that you guys should know about. And then the next one is a secretary. Everyone needs a secretary. This person would be taking notes. They would be creating minutes. They would be someone who would be basically documenting what's happening at the meetings, what needs to be followed up on, anything related to the administrative tasks that are going to go along with your meeting. So a secretary is its own position that, yes, you need, and it is a title that is required. And I say this because even when you are placing things in for the IRS or for your state, sometimes they do ask specifically who is in what position. And so it's important for you to know those things. And also when you're looking for someone to join your board, you want to make sure you are either trying to fill a specific type of role, or do you just need them as a director on your board? The next thing is a treasurer or a CFO. And for the treasurer or CFO, you can call them a chief financial officer, or you can call them the treasurer. But basically, these are the people who are focused on the numbers. They're going to talk about and work through the actual numbers and budget and things like that. And they will be the people who will be, if you have members at all, who they'll be receiving the funds and relaying that information to the rest of the board of directors. So that's a really important key role. That's someone you want to have in there that you trust. That should not ever be the founder. That should be just someone that you trust and that you want to have in that position. So again, that can also change if you have multiple people who have experience with numbers, or that you trust and you want to have in that position. That's totally fine. But the most important piece of that is just to realize that when you're putting someone on your board, you're looking for, can they do these positions? These are 3 key positions that need to be filled and are required, at least in California by law, that you have on your board. It also creates a good public facing board, so that you always know that you have these 3 positions filled. So in California, the base requirement, I believe, is 3 to 5, I think. Somewhere in there is the minimum. I'm not sure if it's 5. We have 5 on our board, and I feel like it's a perfect number. We have 2 generally that are non-officers, and 3 that are actual officers on our board. So it's good to kind of balance that out. I think 5 is an excellent number for any board. And some states only require 3 people, and you can see why. You need to have at least those 3 positions filled. And I think that's pretty much it for that. Now, when you're looking for some of the people on your board, one of the things I am running into with some of you when we talk about it in the Unleash Your Purpose course, if you're just getting started or you needed help getting started, in that course, we go through 30 days of like what you need to do on a daily basis, and to move forward basically in getting your nonprofit established. So if you're interested in something like that, you can go to the Unleash Your Purpose course. It's unleashyourpurpose.thinkific.com, and you can check it out there. But basically, I walk you through those 30 days, and we talk about how to find board members for those positions. And one of the things I like to mention in that course is that when you are looking for your board members, I want you to realize that this is something where you are asking someone to give their extra time to you. So I hear sometimes a lot of you talking about how people are not doing work for the board, or they're not doing specific tasks, or they're not interested, it seems, and things like that. So I want you guys to understand that when you are hiring on a board, you want to make it as easy as possible for them to support your work and to attend the meetings, but not be overworked and not asked to do more than they are capable of doing. Remember that you find your organization to be the most important thing, because it's yours, it's your baby, you created it, and you want to see it last. But if you're looking for people to help you build the organization, you don't want to have that come from your board. You want your board to really take their job and their position seriously, and that they are looking at the the actual funding of your organization. They're looking at the sustainability of your organization and maintaining the funds and how the funds are being used and things like that. Not how to find more donors, not how to recruit people or whatever. Those would be more volunteer positions. And so I wanted to make sure I make that delineation between those two, because I think sometimes a lot of you are thinking like, okay, I have my board members over here, but they're not helping me do the work. And that's why I always encourage you not to have a working board, not to start with this in mind. You are actually building a business, and so the business side of things that your board is going to focus on is a really important job, and it's a very important task and responsibility for them to have. The tactical things, the everyday things, those are more like, let me find some volunteers, people who've said, hey, I want to do a certain aspect or help you with a certain part of your organization. Go find those people and have them help you on a volunteer basis, not in a board position. So anyway, that's really all I wanted to leave you guys with today. If you have any questions on this video, please leave your questions down below. If you're in the Facebook group and you are in the tribe, please just make sure you tag my name, and then that way I'll know that you're asking me a question or that you had something to add or ask related to this video or anything else. So again, thank you guys so much for being here. I hope you have a remarkable Monday. Now get out there and unleash your something amazing, and I will see you next week. Bye guys.